Hi, how's it going? Welcome to Code with Z. In today's video, we have to find the first unique character in this string that we have here. Why? Well, because that's what LeetCode 387, first unique character in a string, is asking us to do. As you can see, it says, given a string called S, for example, this string that we have here, find the first non-repeating character in it and return its index. So we have to return the index, not the character itself, and we only have to return the first one. So the first unique character that has no repetition. And if it doesn't exist, return -1. Alright, let's see how we can solve this. Our approach is gonna be pretty intuitive. We're gonna have a frequency map, and we're just gonna basically loop through the string and store how many repetitions of each letter we're gonna have. So for example, we're gonna start looping, and we're gonna start from the letter L, because this is the first element inside of our string, and we're gonna check if L exists here. If it doesn't, we're just gonna add it and give it the frequency number of 1, because this is the first time we're seeing the letter L. And then we're gonna move on forward. We're gonna check if E exists here. If it does, we're just gonna increment it, and if it doesn't, we're just gonna add it here with the count or the frequency of 1. Simple as that. And then we're gonna move on forward, and then we're gonna check if E exists. It does, so we're just gonna increment the count here. And we're gonna move on forward. We're gonna check for T, same thing. We're gonna see if it exists here. It doesn't. We're gonna add it with the count of 1 or with the frequency of 1. And then we're gonna repeat the same thing for C and O. O doesn't exist, so we have to add it. And then D, same thing. And then we're gonna come across E again, and we have to increment it again. So now that we're done with our loop, and we know the frequency of all of the letters, we're gonna loop through our string and return the index of the first element that has the frequency of 1. So we're gonna start looping. We're gonna start with L because it's the first element, and then we're gonna check its frequency, and we're gonna check if it has the frequency of 1. It does, so we're just gonna return the index of L, which is 0, and that's gonna be it. So just to summarize, after we have our frequency map, we're gonna loop through our word again, and then look for the first letter that has the frequency of 1. When we find it, we're just gonna return the index of that letter. And that's gonna be it. Now let's code this in the simplest way possible. Alrighty, let's code this together. So the first thing that we need to do is to define our frequency map, and this is gonna be a new map, simple as that. And then we're gonna have our first for loop to loop through our character and build up our frequency map. So we're gonna say for let I being equal to 0, and we wanna keep on looping as long as I is smaller than s.length and I++ on each round. Here we're gonna say get frequency map, and we want to set a value. We're gonna say the key for this value is gonna be basically the letter, so S of I, and then we wanna give it the frequency, just like we saw in the slides. So the letter and then the frequency. We wanna say that if the frequency already exists, meaning if we have actually came across this letter before, we wanna add 1 to it, and if it's the first time that we're coming across this letter, we want to start with the frequency of 1. So to say this, we're gonna say frequency map get of S of I or 0, and then we're gonna have +1. So what this means is that get the frequency map and find the frequency for the current letter. If the frequency for the current letter exists, add 1 to it. But if this is undefined, meaning it was the first time that we actually came across that letter, default to 0 and add 1 to it, and that's gonna be it. After this for loop, we have our frequency map ready. So we're just gonna have another loop that's gonna be pretty similar for let I being equal to 0, and we wanna keep on looping as long as I is smaller than s.length, and then I++. Here we're gonna say if frequency map get of the current letter is equal to 1, just return I. So basically, once we've found the first letter that has the frequency of 1, we wanna return its index. And at the end, if we don't find anything, we're just gonna return -1, just like the question asked us to. And now let's run this and see if we can actually get accepted. And yep, awesome. Now let's submit this and see if we can actually pass all of the test cases. And yep, we got accepted. That's awesome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep on coding.